All right, what is good, everybody? Welcome back to another ramble or another thing of the week. I guess I think that's what I was calling it. I didn't. I don't think I did a single one in November, but we're back, and we're going to talk about a topic that has been kind of trending over the last couple of days for the Denver Nuggets, and it is should they trade for Zach Lavine? Now, Zach Lavine, he's coming off of his best game of the season. He had a season high in points. He was cooking the defending champion Celtics, cooking whoever's in front of him. This is a fully healthy Celtics. It's not like he was cooking like Drew Peterson and Peyton Pritchard. He's doing this against Holiday and White and Brown and Tatum. Like he's doing it against the main guys. And he did have a great game. 36, 6, and 4. Great efficiency. And like I said, again, against really, really good defenders. It's not like he's doing this against nobody. He's doing it against the Celtics. He did it off of drive, did it off pick and roll, did it off pick and pop, did it off, drag screens, catch and shoot, ISO, whatever. Like he was doing it however he wanted. So is Zach Lavine a good player? Yes, but that's not the point of this video. I think Zach Lavine has been underrated most of his career. I think when you've been in as many losing situations as he has been, I mean, he has legitimately been on one good team his entire career, and that was the 21-22 Bulls. That's the only good team he's been on, right? And when he was on that team, he was an all-star, he's getting All-NBA consideration. Like, he was thought of as a top 5, top 3 shooting guard in the league, maybe. And now his perception of him is so low that the Bulls can't even get like a second-round pick for him. So that brings us to the question: do the Denver Nuggets trade for Zach Lavine? Right? This is a guy who's making $43 million a year. You will have to give up Michael Porter Jr. for him. I already tried it out. There's no way that a third team can get involved with Denver taking his salary in because they don't have another salary to give. This is the way that the second apron works now with the new CBA. Denver cannot take any more salary back. They have to be giving up more, or they have to match the salary, right? They don't have a choice of being in between or taking back more than what they're giving up, or just taking back any and not giving back any. So let's get into it. Should they trade for Zach Lavine? And specifically, should they trade Michael Porter Jr. for Zach Lavine? My very simple answer to this is no. I don't think Zach Lavine solves any of the actual issues that are facing the Denver Nuggets right now, right? And I think their game against Portland on Thursday night is a very, very easy and clear example of why they shouldn't do it. When Denver lost Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in the offseason, a lot of people were like, man, Christian Braun's going to come in to the starting lineup and their offense is going to suck, right? Their offense is just going to stink. Like, he's not going to be able to space the floor properly. They're going to lose that DHO into a mid-range jumper that KCP and Jokic had a great thing going on with that. KCP had some incredible games in the playoffs for Denver. He was a huge reason as to why they were able to win against Phoenix in the playoffs during the championship run. Did a great job in the Lakers series. Did a great job against Jimmy Butler, Gabe Vincent, and Cody Martin and Caleb Martin, and how potent that Heat offense was in the finals or in that playoff run. He was a great job. But it was his defense. His defense was the reason why they were able to do that, and that's what I think a lot of people kind of forgot about. Everyone knew Christian Braun was a good defender. But KCP is on another level when it comes to his screen navigation. And we have seen this come up time and time again with the Denver Nuggets this season. They cannot guard guards, right? I think they don't have awful point of attack defense because I think Brown and Gordon and Peyton Watson and Russell Westbrook has been great defensively. Those guys are fine on defense, right? They have good defenders. I don't even think Michael Porter Jr. is a bad defender. I think the only players who have been bad defenders this season who have actually played minutes for Denver have been Jamal Murray and Julian Strawther. Everyone else, I think, has had decent defensive moments or decent defensive stretches at the very least, if not having great defensive seasons overall. However, they can't guard guards. If there's a backcourt combo that has two good guards in it, they are screwed. And we have seen this over the last couple of weeks three times now, right? It first was very apparent against Cleveland, right? Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland they were able to get whatever they want. You just run a high pick and roll. The guard can't get around the screen, whether it's Murray, whether it's Westbrook, whether it's Brown. Those guys cannot defend the screen. They have no idea how to get around it. And that was something KCP was so good at. He couldn't get screen. He's in front of you at all times. Yeah, he's a little skinnier in his frame. He's going to get bullied by bigger defenders or bigger players, bigger guards, wings, that sort of stuff. That, Jamal Murray and Christian Brown, Russell Westbrook, they don't get like bullied like that because they're just bigger. They're stronger than KCP. But the screen navigation is such an issue. And the other issue is that they're just not, they don't get feared. Teams do not fear Denver defensively at all. I mean, Against the Wizards, another game that Denver dropped that they absolutely should not have. Jared Butler was going at Jamal Murray. Jordan Miller from the Clippers going at Jamal Murray. Brandon Boston from the Pelicans, another game Denver should not have lost. I don't care that Jokic wasn't playing. They're just going straight at Jamal Murray, and they don't care that he's in front of them. Like, guys who are barely rotational NBA players are going straight at Denver's guards without any care in the world. So that's an issue that Zach Lavine absolutely does not solve. He is not going to help your guard defense. He's having one of his better defensive seasons this year, according to defensive EPM. He's having a decent season, right? And like I said, offensively, we already know what the guy can do, but he's not going to, just buy in immediately and guard, because if you trade for him, you're not trading for his defense. You're not trading for him to buy in and guard. You're trading for him to be a creator, to be a shooter, to be a scorer. So that's where most of his effort and intensity is going to be on. It's not going to be on the defensive end. A lot of people are pointing to Denver trading for Aaron Gordon back in 2021. It's like, hey, this dude bought in defensively. He knows what he's doing. Well, that's because they weren't asking for him to do stuff on offense, right? They traded for him for his defense. Even though when he was in Orlando, he was a guy who was known as an offensive player, but you bring him in because his defense is so good, or because he has the intangibles to be a good defender. That's not going to happen with Zach Lavine. That's not what he's never once shown that he can be a good defender in the NBA. Maybe a good defender is, but he's never shown that he can be an impactful playoff rotational defender in the NBA. I'll say that because that's what Denver needs more than just a good player on defense. The other thing is Denver just doesn't have enough rotational playoff players. They don't. Like they have 7 players who I trust in a playoff rotation, and I honestly think Michael Malone feels the exact same way against Portland. Portland. Okay? I don't want a game in all of December against that team. Julian Strawther, the guy who's supposed to take the step, the guy who's supposed to be one of those playoff rotational guys, the guy who's supposed to be the spark, the scorer off the bench, is not on the floor in the fourth quarter. It's Hunter Tyson out there in the fourth quarter instead of Julian Strawther. Shout out to Ryan Blackburn for giving us this spreadsheet right here. And it is bad. All right, what it's showing is, obviously, you see the title, 2-man net rating combos within the first 25 games for the Denver Nuggets. There are 7 players who have a good net rating with whoever they play. But there's a whole lot of red all over this, and including Julian Strawther. He's good with Nikola Jokic. Okay, so is literally everyone. There's not a single player on here who has a negative rating with Jokic. But if you see him with Jokic, it is by far the lowest one. It's even lower than Hunter Tyson. And it goes without saying. You look at the the big offseason things that Calvin Booth has done in his time heading the Denver Nuggets. Zeke Naji extension, that dude has, those are like disgusting numbers. Disgusting. No matter who he plays with, he sucks. That's insane. And then you look at Dario Saric, the guy you've given a mid-level exception to, and, might I add, a player option. So if you want to get rid of him, you have to do what you did with Reggie Jackson, which is get rid of him and get rid of 3 second-round picks, which I will get to in a bit. He also stinks with everybody except Jamal Murray somehow. So this is what's proving my point. Denver has 7 playoff players. That is it. It's the starting lineup. Murray, Brown, Porter, Gordon, Jokic, and there's 2 guys off the bench. It's Westbrook and it's Peyton Watson. That is it, man. Like, that's awful. That is not good. So I think trading Michael Porter Jr. away, and you're going to have to get rid of Zeke Naji or Saric or some other contract to even just make the money match. It's not going to work. That doesn't do anything to actually help the team. Yes, it adds creation. We saw in the Minnesota series how much Denver does need another creator, right? Murray couldn't even bring the ball up, but Murray was also injured, right? If he plays how he did in the playoffs, hell, even if he plays like he did in the Lakers series, if he's healthy like that, they're going to be fine. He was playing off of one leg. Okay, obviously he's not going to be able to go. He's one of the best perimeter defenses I've ever seen in my life. So I think trading for a creator, especially one as drastic as Lavine, doesn't do anything for the current iteration of this team. Denver also has issues rebounding and free throw shooting. Okay, those are things that should be able to get fixed internally. Okay, their defensive rebounding percentage is awful. All right, they're in the bottom. I think they're 26th in the league in defensive rebounding percentage. Okay, that is horrible. And we saw it again against Portland. They can't get a rebound. 21-8 second chance points. They missed 6 free throws in a 2-point loss. Like they got outscored 13 points in second chance points alone. Like that, it is very, very simple things. It's just effort and buy-in. And the team right now doesn't even have it. So I don't understand going out and training for Zach Lavine and thinking he's going to come in and change the culture. That's not an insult to Lavine, but there's things internally that Denver has to figure out before going out and shipping out a culture guy who's done everything right and a guy who is close with everyone on the team to bring in someone new who's not going to fix the biggest issues. Okay? It doesn't make any sense. Now, I'll go through the pros of trading for Zach Lavine, okay? Because there are some. I mentioned the creation. Yeah, it's not a huge issue, but it is an issue. Denver does need another creator, right? If teams are starting finally, 7 years in, they're starting to figure out the Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic two-man game. They're understanding how to guard it better and better each season. So you do want to have someone else who can run an action with Jokic. You do want to have someone else who can ball handle, right? Obviously, Jokic and Westbrook have a great rapport. They've been doing a really, really good job. But I don't want to trust Westbrook on the floor in the fourth quarter of a playoff game because of his inability to shoot jumpers. Lavine does solve that. He's a good playmaker. He's much better, obviously, much better on-ball scorer, on-ball player overall than Porter. I think he's an incredibly talented shooter, right? You're going to see a little bit of a drop-off there, but I don't think it's going to be enough to where you're like, man, like I'm not trading him 1-for-1 because I would. If it's 1-for-1, he is a better player in a vacuum. He is a better player than Michael Porter Jr. But it's a tough decision to make, specifically because of that. He is a better player than Michael Porter Jr. He does solve issues of volume three-point shooting. You do need that. He is a good free throw shooter, much better than Porter has been this season. Porter's below 70%. And he's a creator, man. Like, he can get his own shot, and that is something that the starting lineup just needs. They need another creator, but the bench needs that, right? Being able to have another starter to come in and buoy the bench unit, you could be able to stagger Lavine with the bench instead of Jamal Murray and give Murray more rest or play him with the starters more and play him with Jokic more than having to have him be the main guy on the bench because it hasn't worked this season that much. So that's a big pro for trading for someone like Lavine. Another pro for Lavine, I think it raises your ceiling, specifically for this season. Okay, I really think it does. I think Lavine, if all goes right, yeah, he buys in and he is a good defender. You will have to change the starting lineup. I don't think Christian Brown can play the 3, so you slot Peyton Watson in there at the 3. I think that lineup of Murray, Lavine, Watson, Gordon, Jokic, that is very, very intriguing to me. I think Watson and Jokic play great with each other. The spacing might get a little gross with Watson and Gordon because I don't think Gordon's shooting this season is real. But it's still that is still a great lineup. You have everything that you need, right? Especially if Lavine's defense turns out to be good. So that part I 100% do understand. And you are really only giving up one rotation player for another. You will have to add Zeke Najee's contract in there, and he's not playing anyway. And so it's essentially just Porter for Lavine. Subbing him out, what does that do for your team? It does help. It 100% would help. But I don't know if it's the move that they need to make. I'm trying to think of pros. I really, those are the only two. It raises your ceiling for this year, and it does solve an issue. The only problem about that is it plugs one hole, but it opens another. Like it's just you're taking the stopgap out of one hole and you're putting it into another, but that other hole is it's still wide open. Denver loses defense and rebounding significantly, and it screws up the culture of the team mid-season. I don't think that that's what they need. I think there are much more attainable trades throughout the spectrum where Denver can get some sort of backup big, someone who's serviceable, or they can get something that can solve their guard defense issues, something that can solve their defensive rebounding issues. Like Larry Nance and Jonas Valanciunas are two much more attainable guys we can get without giving up Michael Porter Jr. I think you would have to float Julian Strawther out there, but again, that's not giving up a rotational player for that. I think you give up Zeke Naji and Julian Strawther. You essentially use Strawther as the first round pick that you don't have because you don't have any tradable ones to get a Larry Nance or to get a Jonas Valanciunas. I think that solves way, way more of the issues than it would getting Zach Lavine. Now, if we revisit this conversation in the offseason, Denver flames out early in the playoffs, which I think is probably going to happen. then yes, I absolutely think you can pull the trigger and go after Zach Lavine because then I think it makes more sense. You have a full season to figure it out, not a quarter of the way through, more than a quarter of the way through. I think if you do trade Michael Porter Jr. this year, there are a couple trades that I would explore specifically with the Brooklyn Nets, but it is if they want to do it. If you trade Michael Porter Jr. and Zeke Naji, you can get back Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson. That is a trade that I really, really do think that you could make because you're getting back an additional rotational player. You're getting someone else in there. So then you have 8 rotational players, and I think that in turn makes you a good legit playoff contender. You don't have to rely on hoping if Julian Strawther can be good in the playoffs or hoping that Michael Porter Jr. is going to be good. You have guys who are going to do good in their roles. Cam Johnson is going to hit his shots. He's going to hit wide open threes. He's going to make his free throws. He's become a much better driver and playmaker than he has in recent years and this season with Brooklyn. He knows what to do. He knows what to do, and I think him and Jokic would have a phenomenal connection. I think he's just as good of a shooter as Michael Porter Jr. is, especially off the catch. I mean, it's almost automatic. All right, this dude is ridiculous. And Dorian Finney-Smith gives you another wing, another power forward guy who you can use in the playoffs, and a guy who can shoot corner threes, a guy who can defend wings, and another option to at least put on guards. Like I don't think Cam Johnson or Dorian Finney-Smith are going to help that severely, but they're good rotational players that you can get back. I think that trade is much more. One, I think it's more attainable, and two, I think it makes more sense for how the team is currently constructed. Denver does not have the ability to make smaller trades. You have to give up players and you have to give up big salary. Like that's the only way that you can do it. Zeke Naji is a tradable contract. He's not a tradable player though, right? He's not good, so no one's gonna want him. So you have to give up MPJ or Strawther or God forbid Watson or Brown. But like that's the position that they're handcuffed in, and it really sucks. And I think games like the game against Portland, the game against Washington, the game against the Pelicans, it shows. Like it showed this team is not there, not even close, right? And everyone's like, oh, the championship year they were 14-10 or whatever, and then they started getting it together around this time, but you knew why they were 14-10 that time. It was a different roster. You're adding 2 huge pieces to the offense back after the season before. You're adding Jamal Murray and you're adding Michael Porter Jr. You're waiting for those guys to get up to speed. You also added 3 other separate rotation pieces back, right? Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Bruce Brown, Christian Braun. All those guys came in. So, like, obviously it makes sense. It's a new roster, still getting to figure each other out. This is not a new roster, okay? The only person who's new is Russell Westbrook, and he has been great. It's not his fault. Their slow start is not attributed to anything except the fact that the roster is not that good. That's it. They're not talented enough. They only have 7 guys. Trading for Zach Lavine does not do anything to solve that biggest issue. I do see a lot of people say that it's kind of inevitable that Porter is going to get traded. He kind of has unfortunately been set up as the fall guy for this roster. Jamal Murray, even though he has been I don't want to say he's been the worst starter, but honestly, he might. He's had a couple of good games back to back, but he might be the worst starter on the team right now. But he's not tradable because he just got a new contract. Same thing with Aaron Gordon. Those guys are brand new extensions. They're not eligible to be traded. The only guys who you can trade are Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. So obviously the only guy they're going to trade is MPJ. He's the fall guy, and it sucks because it's Calvin Booth's fault that the roster is severely mismanaged. I think that they could, maybe hindsight, maybe you open your textbooks open a little bit more to just bring KCP back and figure it out. Just deal with the luxury tax. You can handcuff yourself into whatever roster you have, but it's not good. I don't think trading for Zach Lavine does anything that can't be fixed just by hoping it's fixed. I think Denver trading for Zach Lavine would be making a big move for the sake of making a move, making a big move for the sake of changing something up, just for this iteration of the team isn't getting it done. Let's go get someone else. That doesn't do anything. That is what the Warriors did, trading Jordan Poole to get Chris Paul. That's what they did. There's like, we need to do something, right? This roster, they won a championship. Next year they don't do it. We need to do something. We need to figure it out. So they do that. I think that's what this would be. I really do. And I don't think it solves any of the actual issues on the team. It's an issue that I think you can address in the offseason. I don't think the creation issue
Not
is something that you can
not
adequately address this year without just opening up other holes in the team. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. I just saw a report that said that the Bulls are unwilling to take back Zeke Naji's salary in any sort of deal involving Lavine and Porter, which again makes like that is just it just makes it a 1-for-1 swap if you add in Najee. He's not even gonna like he's bad. I don't know. He's no one wants him. And that's the biggest issue. Like I think Denver has handcuffed themselves into this roster, and they don't have any second round picks and sent them all with Reggie Jackson for no reason. And yeah, so we'll see what happens, man. Like I
not
think this team can figure it out. I do think the two big issues are defensive rebounding and free throw shooting. They're getting to the line more than any team in the NBA, which is a great sign. The only issue is they suck when they're there. I
correct.
just think free throw shooting, that's something that's so fixable. Just be good at shooting free throws. I don't like the one thing I think I could be better at than a lot of NBA players is shooting free throws. And defensive rebounding. That's just an effort thing, right? That's just a hustle. That's just wanting it more. They've had so many plays this year where they've just like lackadaisical, oh, I'm going to go get the rebound. They knock it out of a teammate's hands and it becomes a turnover. Happened in the last game against Portland. These are easy issues to fix. I don't think you need to make a trade to fix those two things. If they fix those two things, I legitimately think they would have like 5 less losses on the year. They might be like 20-5, like genuinely, because it doesn't make any sense as to why they are so bad at those things after being decent at them last year. Except the free throw shooting, the rebounding was never an issue. Like at least not to this degree. So yeah, I don't. Long story short, Denver should not trade for Zach Lavine. All right, not yet, at least. Maybe when you get close to the deadline, and if these issues are really starting to pile up, and you know you're going to make some sort of deal in the offseason, go for it. All right, go for it. Not now. Not now. I don't. It doesn't make any sense to do it now. We will see what happens.
Not
I believe there's going to be an active trade deadline for Denver. Um, if it involves Porter or not remains to be seen. I don't have any sources backing that. It's just what it is. So yeah, we will see what happens.
not not
Yeah. Thanks for watching. I know this was kind of all over the place, but um, those are just what's going through my head around this trade. I don't think Denver should trade for Zach
not
Lavine, or Brandon Ingram for that matter, but I think everyone kind of agrees on him. But there are a lot of people split on trading for Lavine. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one. Peace.